What if the biggest limits in your life weren't physical, financial, or external, but mental? What if most of us are operating at only 40% of our true potential? David Goggins believes this is the reality. His book, Can't Hurt Me, Master Your Mind and Defy the Odds, is part memoir, part manual for mental toughness. Published in 2018, it tells the story of Goggins' incredible transformation from an overweight, insecure young man into a Navy SEAL, ultra-endurance athlete, and one of the toughest people alive. But more than a story of achievements, it's a philosophy of resilience. Goggins shows how we can all break past pain, excuses, and self-doubt by mastering the mind. Welcome to 10-Minute Books, the channel where we break down the world's most powerful books into practical lessons you can absorb in just 10 minutes. Today, we're diving into Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, a raw and powerful guide to pushing past limits, developing relentless discipline, and living a life without excuses. The early struggles. Goggins' story begins with hardship. He grew up in an abusive household, struggled in school, faced racism, and developed deep insecurities. As a young adult, he was overweight, depressed, and stuck in a dead-end job spraying for cockroaches. His life could easily have stayed that way. But one day, watching a TV program about Navy SEALs, Goggins felt a spark. Despite being out of shape and far from qualified, he decided to transform his life. This decision marked the beginning of an incredible journey, but it wasn't easy. The 40% rule. One of Goggins' core lessons is what he calls the 40% rule. He argues that when your mind tells you you're done, when you're exhausted, defeated, and ready to quit, you're actually only at about 40% of your true capacity. Most people stop when things get uncomfortable, but the human body and mind are capable of far more. The key is learning to push past that first wall of pain and discomfort, callousing the mind. Goggins introduces the idea of callousing the mind. Just like lifting weights creates calluses on your hands, enduring hardships and deliberately seeking discomfort toughens your mind. He believes that exposing yourself to pain, challenges, and failure makes you stronger. Instead of avoiding difficulties, he recommends leaning into them because each struggle makes you more resilient for the next one. Accountability mirror. As part of his transformation, Goggins created what he calls the accountability mirror. He would look at himself in the mirror and write blunt, honest notes about who he was and who he wanted to become. If he was overweight, he'd write, "You're fat, fix it." If he was lazy, he'd write, "Stop making excuses." This harsh honesty forced him to confront reality instead of sugarcoating it. The accountability mirror is a tool anyone can use. By facing the truth about yourself, strengths, weaknesses, and excuses, you can begin to change. The cookie jar. Another mental tool Goggins uses is the cookie jar. When facing extreme pain or challenges, he reminds himself of past victories. Each achievement, no matter how small, is like a cookie in the jar. In moments of struggle, he reaches into the jar, pulls out a memory of success, and uses it to fuel himself forward. This practice builds confidence and helps you push through when you feel like quitting. Taking souls. One of Goggins' most intense concepts is taking souls. It means outperforming or outlasting others, not for revenge, but to gain an edge over your own mind. During Navy SEAL training, Goggins pushed himself so hard that he broke the will of other candidates, proving to himself that he could go further than anyone thought possible. For him, taking souls is about using competition and adversity as motivation to exceed limits. The power of suffering. Goggins argues that suffering is the key to growth. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pain, but Goggins deliberately seeks it out: ultramarathons, grueling workouts, freezing swims, because suffering reveals who you truly are. He believes that the path to greatness runs straight through pain, and that by embracing suffering, you unlock a level of strength that comfort will never give you. Building discipline. At its core, Can't Hurt Me is a book about discipline. Goggins stresses that motivation comes and goes, but discipline keeps you moving no matter what. Discipline means running even when you don't feel like it, studying when you're tired, or sticking to your goals despite setbacks. The ability to act regardless of feelings is what separates high achievers from everyone else. Goggins' achievements. To test his philosophy, Goggins pushed himself to extremes. He became a Navy SEAL despite failing multiple times. He ran ultra-marathons of over 100 miles. He set a world record by doing over 4,000 pull-ups in 17 hours. These achievements weren't about talent, they were about mental toughness. Goggins insists that anyone can do extraordinary things if they're willing to suffer, push past the 40% rule, and build relentless discipline. Lessons for ordinary life. While not everyone wants to run ultramarathons or become a Navy SEAL, Goggins' lessons apply to everyday life. Facing uncomfortable conversations, pursuing difficult goals, or sticking to healthy habits all require the same mental toughness. The point isn't to mimic his extreme lifestyle. The point is to realize that you're capable of far more than you think, and that excuses, comfort, and fear are holding you back. The 10 challenges. Throughout the book, Goggins presents 10 challenges for readers. These include facing the truth in your accountability mirror, doing something that scares you every day, pushing past pain with the 40% rule, creating a cookie jar of past wins, seeking discomfort and suffering deliberately. These challenges turn the book into a practical manual for mental toughness. Criticism and balance. Some critics argue that Goggins' methods are too extreme, or that his push through the pain mentality could encourage injury. It's true that not everyone should follow his path literally, but even critics acknowledge the value of his message, that most people underestimate themselves, that resilience is built through hardship, and that excuses destroy potential. Modern relevance. In a world where comfort and convenience dominate, Goggins' message stands out. Many people avoid discomfort at all costs, but Can't Hurt Me reminds us that comfort is the enemy of growth, whether it's in fitness, career, or personal life. The ability to endure hardship, face fears, and build discipline is more relevant than ever. The big takeaway: Can't Hurt Me is more than a memoir. It's a call to arms against mediocrity. It teaches that your limits are mostly mental, that suffering is a path to strength, and that with discipline, anyone can achieve extraordinary things. The question is, are you living at 40% of your potential, or are you willing to suffer, push past pain, and discover the other 60%? That was Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, broken down in under 20 minutes. Which idea resonates most with you, the 40% rule, the accountability mirror, or the cookie jar? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this summary, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to 10-Minute Books, and ring the bell so you never miss our weekly breakdowns of life-changing books. Thanks for watching, and remember, you can't control everything in life, but you can always control your effort and your mindset.